Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be when you are tuning in to this broadcast. I am your international award-winning author and filmmaker. I got to get it right, y'all. International award-winning author, filmmaker, and empowerment specialist, Tennille M. Jackson. And I want to welcome you guys to an all-new episode of Get Educated, Get Empowered with Tennille. Give me one quick second, and I am supposed to do this. Let's see. Make sure that this happens. Um, okay. So y'all gotta go with me. As you all are coming on, please feel free to say hello, like and share the video and tag somebody that you believe would benefit from this broadcast. So today we are talking about self-care, and not just self-care specifically, but how the title or the topic of self-care, how it applies across the board. Because again, remember, when I'm going through this, we're going to be talking about, the arts, entrepreneurship, relationships, and self-care. And so the caption that I did was, self-care is not an expense, it's an investment, right? And so let's kind of talk about that really quickly. So when we are talking about, and so that's who you need to tag. So if you're watching this, whether you watch it live or on the replay, be sure to tag people who are either in dire need of self-care, who don't understand what self-care is, or who feel that self-care is selfish, right? So today we're going to talk about the truth behind self-care, the truth behind self-care. So first, let's kind of talk about it from that self-care perspective. Self care is literally doing the things that one needs to do to take care of themselves. I touched on a little bit yesterday, depending on what era you grew up in. You may not have been taught to embrace the concept of self care, because those who were born, who I would say 40 and over, we were kind of taught a little bit different, that self care was selfish, that self care was not what a woman was supposed to do, because her job was to be taking care of her spouse or her family, her children. And so it wasn't for her to necessarily take care of herself, right? And then the irony to that is that with many men, they were not necessarily taught to take care of themselves, because they were taught about being providers. So the whole thing was, you're supposed to provide for your family, provide for your significant other. And so it's really crazy, to think that now we are in a generation that really embraces the concept of self care. And I think that one of the reasons why even now self care gets a bad rap is because of the fact that we think about that as being a selfish need. Like, I think that people, when they think about self care, they are thinking about, spa days, or buying, ridiculously large amounts of whatever the material goods are, right? And so we have to understand, when we say self care, what it is that we're talking about. So again, we're going to hit self care from all of these different angles. We're going to hit it, number one, under the topic of self care, but then how that title, that it is not an expense, it's an investment. We're going to hit that across the board. So under entrepreneurship, under relationships, and under the arts, believe it or not, we're going to tie that in as well. So self care is doing just that, taking care of yourself, not just physically, not just financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, making sure that holistically yourself is okay, right? Like, one of the things that I'm a huge advocate for now, and again, I told you guys that, like, as a stroke survivor, and stress was the culprit behind my strokes, right? And so one of the reasons for that was the fact that I was not living a balanced life. I was not comfortable with setting boundaries, with telling people no, because I thought that that made me a mean person or a selfish person, and you want to try to help as many people as you can, right? But you have to understand, that a part of self-care is understanding your capacity. And in fact, there was something that I won't go into full detail with it, but something that I'm connected to, that I had to kind of step away from, because I, like, at large. So the people that are, let's say, the basis of this thing, I connected to them personally and say, hey, if you need me, I'm here. However, at large, I need to step away because all of the stuff that's going on, it is not good for my mental health, right? Like it's very overwhelming, it's overstimulating me. It's becoming kind of stressful. And so I've gotten to a place where now I know my capacity. I know what I have capacity to deal with, whether it is other people, whether it's nonsense, whether it's responsibility. And so I have gotten to the place where I have no problem setting boundaries, no problems being verbal to say what is too much for me, what is beyond what I'm able to take on. And so that really in and of itself is kind of self-care defined, right? Like understanding what you need to do for you to be okay. And so self-care can look like taking days off of work. It can look like taking a hiatus from social media. It can look like, cutting people off in your life, regardless of what capacity they serve. Like when you know that whatever it is you're connected to isn't having like a good outcome for you, if you're steadily stressing or crying or in some type of negative way all the time, then you need to assess the situation and see what's going on, right? So that in a nutshell is self-care. Doing what you need to do for yourself holistically, again, whether it is spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, doing what you need to do for you to be okay. Because at the end of the day, as they always say on the plane, before you can help somebody else, you have to take that oxygen mask, right? And put it over your own nose so that way you can be okay. Because if you're dead, you can't help anybody now, can you? Right. So now that's self care under that umbrella. But let's kind of transition it and examine that statement that self care is not an expense, it's an investment. And let's bring that to entrepreneurship, right? So, as an entrepreneur, when we are starting our businesses, when we are looking at what it is that we want to do, what type of business that we're trying to open or to establish, to get off of the ground, to start up, however you want to say it. Like many times we have to figure out like what is a necessary cost, what is something that we need to invest in, right? And you have to understand that everything may be an expense because you got to pay for it. But the difference between an expense and an investment really is your perspective of it. It's really the productivity of it, right? So, like, if I buy something and I never use it, then that was just money that was not well spent. That was something that was wasted. But if I, buy something and I end up either using it, over and over again, or even if it's one good time, but it yielded a return on that investment, now it wasn't a waste of money, right? Now it was necessary, and we can see the benefit of having spent that money. So I need for you to think of yourself as that thing, right? If you are an entrepreneur and if you are not at your best, then no matter what all you put money into, if you're not putting money into yourself, your well-being, then you're not going to be at your best. So you're not going to be able, your mind won't be functioning right. You're not going to be able to think of the things that you need to think of if you are stressed out, if you're not at your best mentally, physically. So, as an entrepreneur, it's in your best interest to take care of yourself, right? Like if you are always run down, you're always fatigued, you're just not 100%, then that's going to translate into how you do business, right? Like you have some people who are lights, camera, action, meaning I might not be cool, but as soon as the lights turn on, I'm ready to roll. You have some people that's like that, but it's only so long that you can do that before it starts taking an effect, right? So you have to, like they say, fake it till you make it, but you can only fake it so long till it start to catch up with you. So from that perspective, you want to make sure that you are being the best you that you can be, that you are not cutting corners as it pertains to taking care of yourself. Because think about it like this: if it was some tool that you need, some software that you needed, you would be able to justify spending X amount of dollars because you could then see again that return on investment. So if I spend this $1,000 or this $100 or even this $10, I understand that putting this amount of money is going to be good because it will justify what I'm going to get in return. Well, you have to think about yourself as the entrepreneur in that same light, that you are the investment, right? So taking care of you, making sure you are good is the best way to ensure that you will get that money back, or that whatever it is that you're trying to get done, as long as you are good, then it will get done. Now let's talk about that whole self-care as it pertains to the concept of relationships. So as I told you guys before, we'll be talking about relationships from a parental, personal, and professional standpoint. So I don't care which aspect. Again, if you are not 100%, think about it from as a parent. Your children are, coming up to you, mama, daddy, I got this game I want you to be at, or can you help me learn, help me with my homework, or I need you to teach me how to ride my bike, or, and if you are not 100%, you're going to find yourself telling them, maybe next time, maybe another time, mama tired, they don't feel good, and after a while, like that first time, maybe two, even potentially three, depending on the ages of your children, they may get it and you may not feel that disappointment. But over time, if you keep telling them no, if you keep pushing them away, then they're probably gonna stop asking, and they may even internalize it to say, why don't mom or why don't dad want to spend time with me, right? And so if that's not the impression that you're trying to give, then again, that's a good reason to take care of you. That should be incentive enough to be the best for the people you're in relationship with, because guess what? It's not just children that will take it offensively, but your significant others will as well. Because after a while, if you keep on putting off dates or putting off spending time together or whatever it is that you guys have going on, then they may think that you're either looking at somebody else or that you're just no longer interested in them. And so you never want, if it's not personal, you don't want for it to come across as personal, right? So when you're trying to be in good relationship with people, then you don't want for the fact that you are not your best to end up offending somebody that you care about. And again, that's whether it's parental, personal, or professional relationships. And now finally, let's put this into perspective in the arts, that self-care is not an expense, it is an investment. So when we talk about the arts, right? So whether we're talking about literary, visual, or even performance arts, like again, you have to take care of yourself. If I am writing a book, I need to mentally be okay, right? Because if I start getting that brain fog, if I start getting that fatigue, it's going to be hard for me to concentrate to finish the project. And that's the same even with a film, right? If I'm into performance arts, whether I'm a singer, whether I'm a dancer, like if I am not good, then my stamina is going to be messed up, my energy is going to be messed up, my voice can even be affected. Like if people are not getting rest, like you see all the time that singers, they really put an emphasis on being rested, taking care of their voice, because if they're tired, then most of the time, especially if they ain't got a lot of time in the game, like you can hear that that's going to come across. I would won't forget when I did, I was recording Remembering, and my producer, he told me, he said, okay, listen, this whole week, you cannot preach. You cannot go live. You cannot holler at the girls. You can't. He really tried to warn me to say, do not do all of this. I need you to spare your voice, because when you if you're constantly talking, you're constantly doing this stuff, you don't think of it, because if you're not used to using your voice as an instrument, you're just kind of quote unquote wasting your voice, right? And so when we go into the studio, I need that voice to be warm. I need that voice to be ready to do what it needs to do, right? And so, needless to say, hey, missionary, thank you so much for tuning in. Needless to say, I was a little hard headed, a little hard headed. So when I got to the studio, he's like, "Why are you hoarse?" I said, "I preached, and and the kids had made me mad, and and so I'm like going down. He's like, "But I told you." And so the point is like, I had to drink on a lot of hot tea, right? And I was able to kind of push through it, but it definitely taught me a lesson that you have to take care of yourself, right? Like a lot of times we think that that's just cliche, but literally taking care of yourself spills over into everything that you do. So I need you guys moving forward, because we're basically wrapping it up already. But moving forward, understand that self care is not selfish, right? Say it with me. Hey, Miss Danielle. I want you guys type it in the comments. Whether you watch it live on the replay, self care is not selfish, right? So you can either put self care is not selfish, self care is necessary, self care is an investment. Pick either of those phrases and put it in in the comment section. Yes, I love what Danielle put. Self care is life, because it absolutely is. If you are not taking care of yourself, you're taking away from yourself. Okay, if you are not taking care of yourself, you're taking away from yourself. And again, I think we just really need to understand the proper way of looking at self care. Like, understand that again, self care is not just, okay, well, I'm going to spend $5,000 in a spa today. Self care does not equal bankruptcy. Like, there are so many things that you can do that is self care that is free. If you can take a shower, take a hot bath, you can meditate, you can go for a walk. Like, adult coloring books is probably one of my favorite things to do. You can talk to people, like if you had what, and not just necessarily a therapist, even though that can help. Therapy is also self-care. If you have a friend that you can talk to, like let's say if you got a lot of stuff going on and you just need to kind of you just need to kind of come down. Like, all of that is self care. Again, also remember that self care is not limited to just taking care of yourself physically, but self care is also taking care of yourself mentally. So, self care can look like, you know what, maybe I need to take a hiatus from social media. Maybe I don't need to post today, or maybe I don't need to respond to every email today, right? Sometimes just push back. Absolute. Come on, Godmother. Absolutely. It is loving yourself and whatever that looks like. And here's the other thing that's kind of connected to it. It was some time ago. I want to say sometime last year. I remember putting out a post that said, when was the last time that you told yourself you were proud of you? Right. And it was so crazy because many people said that I've never told myself I was proud of me. I can't remember the last time I said that to myself, right? And my question was then, why not? Why is it wrong to tell yourself you're proud of yourself, right? Like, why do we give so much power to other people? Why is it that, I'm waiting for Danielle to tell me I did a good job? Like, just because I think that I did a good job, that's not what makes me conceited. Now, if I go out, yeah, can't nobody tell me nothing because I know I did a good job, then yeah, that's arrogance, that's vanity, that's conceit. But just to have that confidence to know that, okay, and especially for those who are spiritual, like if you know God told you to do something and you are obedient, like there is a confidence in being proud of yourself that you did what you knew you were supposed to do. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So Danielle says, because some people benefit off of your lack of self-care. Absolutely. And there are a lot of people you got to watch for them. And this is why I tell you, at least once a quarter, check your circle for leeches, because there are people who you may think actually care about you, but they more so care about what you're able to do, not who you are, right? So if you are connected to people who are always, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? But never are saying, like, how are you today? Or the moment that you tell them that you cannot do it, the moment that you say no, oh, you acting funny now, or it's some type of attitude, like, it, yes, whatever relationship it is should be mutually beneficial, right? So yeah, there are times where it's nothing wrong. I'm not saying it's anything wrong with doing favors for people or helping people out, but if there are times when you don't feel good, whatever, in whatever capacity, like you just have an overwhelmingly stimulating day, if you don't feel good physically, maybe you got a fever, you got a cold, whatever, and you have to tell people I can't, and they got an attitude with you because you can't, because you're inconveniencing them by not being able to perform for them when you feel bad, we might need to re-examine that relationship. Is this something that I actually need? Because, and I will say this as I'm bringing it to a close, like, once you get healed, you begin to move differently um than when you were broken, right? When we are whole, we move different than when we are broken, because when we are broken, it's like, and especially depending on what your vice is, depending on what it is that is a stumbling block for you. But for many people, they're looking for acceptance. So it's like when you're broken, you're falling all over yourself, doing whatever you can just so that people can validate you, so that people will say that they like you or they're proud of you. And even if it's not you, they may say, I like what you did, but what you hear is I like you, right? So it's like when you start, you're living for the compliments of others, and unbeknownst to yourself, you've given that power away, right? You've given your confidence away to other people, and you've given them the power to validate you, so that now you don't even see yourself through the proper lenses. You're seeing yourself through their lenses, so that, I want to take this from Kurt Franklin. He said, I stopped being a human being and I became a human doing, right? And many people, I know I used to be guilty of that. I was a human doing, right? So it was like always, let me do this, do this, do this, do. And then I had the nerve to be mad because people was not caring about who I was. Like, sometimes we do it to ourselves, right? You teach people how to treat you. And so I think Danielle has said that, she said earlier on about, you have to go hard for you, because if people see that you respect yourself, if people see that you have a standard for the way that not only are you treated, but the way you have a standard on how you allow yourself to be treated, then people already know, hey, if I'm trying to go around Danielle, I got to come a certain way. I can't just come any kind of way, right? And a lot of times, and I've noticed in this generation too, like, for whatever reason, people find that to be a negative thing. Like, it's nothing wrong with having a standard for yourself. You shouldn't just want just anybody around you, right? Like, I don't want somebody who's going to be using me, abusing me, taking advantage of me. I don't want them around. So I want to be able to have an air about me where they know, hey, I can't just come to Tennille any kind of way. I can't just present Tennille any kind of thing, right? And so it took a long time to get there though, because as I was saying, when you are broken, you move different. When you're broken, you just kind of accept anything because you're trying so hard to fit in. You're trying so hard to belong. You're trying so hard to be accepted, to be validated. And when you're broken, a lot of times you don't even care about what circles are validating you. You don't care where the belonging is coming from. You just want to fit in. But once you become healed, whole eyes look different, right? Because when you're broken, think about if you had a glass that was broken. When you got all of those cracks and stuff, it's blurry. It's kind of hard to see through shattered glass. But once you get whole, then and you can see straight through it, then it's like, wait a minute, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. This ain't the stuff that I like. So that's why I'm ultimately trying to get you guys to See, like self-care is an investment. Taking care of yourself, spending some time with yourself, doing some assessments. What do I like? What do I not like? You have to figure that out for you. Nobody can figure that out for you. I was so amazed, like as a life coach, there are different clients that I have, and I do like just I start off with simple assessments when we're trying to get people to come around to embracing themselves. What's your favorite color? Do you know how many people never thought about what their favorite color was, what their favorite food is? They can't tell me what their favorite food is, but they can tell me what their kids like. They can tell me their husband's favorite meal. What's your favorite movie? Oh, I don't even remember the last time I watched a movie, but I remember I just took my kids to go see Fill in the Blank, right? So it's like, when do you take time for you? When do you take the time to get to know you? Like, and let's say if you got people who are in the dating world, if somebody is trying to get to know you, how can they get to know you when you don't even know you? Right. And so, and I think that sometimes we are offended to spend time alone, well, because what does that say about me to take? And I remember Ooh, it don't matter who it was. But I remember a person saying to me, like, what I look like taking myself on a date. I'm like, what you mean? What do you look like? Why is that an offensive thing? Why is it a bad thing to go somewhere by yourself? It don't holler desperate, especially depending on how you rock it, right? Like I'm not desperate if I go to a show by myself or to a restaurant by myself or to the mall by myself. Like, I didn't come in the world coupled up. So when I leave, I'm not going to be coupled up. So why is it wrong for me to be comfortable with my own company? But anyway, y'all, that's neither here nor there. Let's wrap it up. Self care is not an expense. It is an investment. Okay. So understand that when you are taking care of you, I love it. Danielle said, she said, self care is standing on business. I love it. When you are taking care of you, then you will show up as the best version of yourself across the board, right? So, taking care of you, then you come in that parental, that personal, or that professional relationship, your best self. So now you got the time, the energy, the excitement to listen to those kids, that significant other, your boss, whomever, when you're trying to start your own business and you come up your best self. Now you get the best ideas to come through when you're in the art. So to my creators, right? Whether you're trying to write the book, do the movie, do the dance, do the song, whatever, like if I'm in a good mental headspace, if I'm physically fit, that's going to help me to get my desired results. And so I want you guys to just keep that in mind, to understand that, again, as I said, self-care is not selfish. And so that has been today's show. Again, do not forget that if you want to be a sponsor for Get Educated, Get Empowered with Tennille, that is definitely an option. So all you have to do is reach out to me, and I can. And after a while, I'll have like the promo, the ad that gives you the rates for what it looks like to be a sponsor. But if you're interested in being a sponsor with Get Educated, Get Empowered with Tennille, that is definitely an opportunity that we do provide. And don't forget, we are live Tuesday through Friday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And what we're talking about, again, we're going to just kind of go through it, but we're always going to be hitting on those topics, which are my areas of expertise: the arts, relationships, self care, and entrepreneurship. But I want to thank you guys so much. And I hope that you have been able to be educated and empowered with Tennille. You guys have a great one.